Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today we're going to be going over the market as usual, talk about Tesla, what happened in the market, and of course, all that good stuff. So as usual, if you guys enjoy, don't forget to hit that like button. Let's just jump straight into it. So tomorrow, by the way, is FOMC meetings, which, isn't as big, isn't like the biggest thing in the world, but, it definitely can influence the market. But nonetheless, let's talk about it. So Tesla ending the day down just shy of down almost 1%, which puts us at $919.69. Compared to the NASDAQ, the QQQs, and the SPY actually, they were relatively flat. So Tesla, performing maybe arguably slightly worse, but, not too much worse compared to the QQQ, pretty close to being in line. Nothing too out of the ordinary, I would say, but nonetheless, let's talk about it. So the most obvious thing to talk about here is what we talked about yesterday. How I said, if Tesla does fall today, which I did expect it to fall, it didn't fall as much as I thought. Well, it did, but then it kind of like got bought back up a bit faster than I thought. So it was red, but not, I thought it would be slightly more red. But nonetheless, we were correct about it being a red day, which is great. A bit of a fake out in the morning, actually. I got a little bit faked out here as well, I'm not gonna lie. The second it broke this 940, and it kind of held above it for a little bit too over here. So that was a bit of a fake out because it kind of broke above, and you can see how it held for, like almost like 10 minutes or something like that, which definitely was a fake out, and then it just crashed right under. So that right there, I know trapped a lot of people, a lot of bulls, even some shorts maybe that exited their short positions thinking that, we're gonna go even higher. So definitely a bit of a fake out up here, but nonetheless we did crash back down, and the point is the fact that we went pretty much straight to the 200 moving average, which I did talk about yesterday. How the bulls ideally want to keep the price above this, which today they have, which is good, which to me pretty much again puts Tesla in this kind of limbo, if you will, where pretty much as long as Tesla is under this kind of 940-ish zone but above the 200 moving average, it's pretty much a battle between bulls versus bears until again one of the sides finally gives in, whether it's the north or to the south, right, for the bulls or for the bears. So I'm personally kind of waiting for that. I did enter some positions, for instance, when today I entered a bullish. It's a pretty like safe-ish position. It's not a risky position. I sold a put just for this Friday, and pretty much as long as Tesla doesn't end the week below $885, I am net positive. Sorry, not 885, about 880 actually. If it doesn't end below 880, then I am net positive. Anything below that this week, I am now down on my position, if you will. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm feeling pretty confident that Tesla will at least end above maybe even 900, but I'll be surprised if it goes below 880 this week at least. It might, obviously, you never know, but again, I am pretty much all cash at the moment, so if I'm forced to buy, it's not a huge deal because this will be my first buy in a long time anyways. But nonetheless, also looking at SPY very quickly, you can see we're still in this ascending wedge. A thing that's important for the SPY, similar to Tesla, just kind of flipped-ish, if you will. I gotta sneeze, give me 1 second. Excuse me. SPY actually came up to the 200 moving average. Unlike Tesla, though, it came up from bottom to up, right? Tesla is, of course, above it. The SPY is below it. And you can see the SPY got heavily rejected, pretty much as it almost directly tapped it. And it just got completely sold off, which I'm pretty sure it's quite obvious where that part was. You can see this heavy sell-off pretty much as we touched that 200 moving average on the SPY. So that's something else to keep in mind. So the fact that the SPY finally got to this zone is, something to consider. Probably get some consolidation for the next couple days is my guess. And so ultimately, maybe end of the week or sometime next week, I personally think we'll most likely start falling out of this wedge. That's my current guess. So we'll, of course, see what happens with that. VIX, of course, is trying to find some support around this area as well. So, it's looking for a bounce. The VIX looks like atrociously weak right now. So it's due for some bounce, at some point here. Not financial advice, do your own, research, make your own decisions, all that stuff. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm seeing at the very moment, guys. We'll take a look at the moving indicators that we kind of care about, right? Which, I mean, at this point, it's going to be pretty obvious. We're pretty much above all of them. 21 EMA, we're above it. Bollinger Band, we're still in between the white and the green. Still haven't really truly got to the white line, which, I still think we will. Maybe not, necessarily tomorrow or something like that, but, pretty close, let's say, sometime definitely this month. 50 moving average, well above that. The 10 and the 5 also above that. Also bounced off almost the 10, or rather almost the 5 today as well. So that's pretty much sitting at $900 at the moment. So we're, Short term, Tesla is still net bullish short term, but the problem is the fact that it is starting to develop some bearish trends. Again, as I talked about it several times, number one, the fact that we did go above 940 but couldn't hold it and got smashed down that aggressively is not good. On top of that, because Tesla is showing a bearish divergence where you can see the stock made a higher high, but the RSI on the daily this time made a lower high. So again, Tesla today went all the way up to 944, and the RSI, you can see even from yesterday, only went up to 65 as opposed to over here, which was 74, even though we technically went higher than we did over here. So that's a bearish divergence starting to form. And I'd be surprised if this doesn't, I'd be surprised if this somehow like breaks apart, essentially, this bearish divergence. I'll be surprised if it breaks apart and doesn't essentially, doesn't result in an actual overall bearish divergence essentially forming and playing out over the next period of, maybe a month or two or something like that. So that's kind of what's happening there. Again, don't forget, guys, this bearish divergence, because it is at the moment, at least what we're looking at is on the daily. This is a kind of, lagging indicator, if you will, where it's pretty much meaning that just because we see it happening and forming now, it doesn't mean that tomorrow or the day after, we're just plummeting straight down to like 500 or something like that. It means that on the daily, at least, that it's setting up, but it is going to take time to, I guess, execute the pattern because it's a longer time frame. So keep that in mind. It doesn't mean that tomorrow we're just it's all over. It'll take weeks, maybe even a couple months, right? So just keep that in mind. Something to consider. I don't think it'll take months, but I definitely think it'll take about a month, give or take. So we'll see what happens with that, of course. But again, guys, the main thing that I want you to pay attention to is the fact that we did, like I said before, all the way when we were still like over here somewhere, we did create this double top. This is a extremely bearish pattern. Now, if we start losing the 200 moving average, and especially if we start falling out of this little red line trend, uptrend that we're currently in, if these two things start to show weakness, I am like extremely convinced, like 90% sure that this double top is ultimately going to play out, and this is going to be the start of the reversal. This also just happens to coincide with, of course, the SPY pretty much, arguably coming to what could be the top here in this rally, right? It's a perfect place to top. There could be a little bit more room to go to the top of this overall trend line, that, the very top red line over here, you can see. We definitely can potentially still rally to that, which will put us somewhere around the 433 range, which isn't that much higher than, even what we went to today. So just keep that in mind, but that is something else to consider. So again, I don't think we'll just plummet straight down. I mean, we could, but I would be surprised if we do, because the RSI on the what's it called? The SPY is not looking like horrible. Like, it is overbought, but it's not showing any like super bearish indicators just yet. Like, for instance, the way Tesla is, where you can see, even though Tesla went even arguably higher, it's making lower highs here, while the SPY, you can see, is just making higher highs, even though as the stock is also making higher highs. It's following the stock essentially, right? It's not diverging from it as Tesla's is, right? Where the RSI is diverging from what the stock chart itself is doing, the price movements. So that's, looking not that bad for the SPY, but this also means that I would probably expect a little bit of consolidation potentially into an ultimate most likely drop if we cannot break above the 200 moving average and above this red line sometime relatively soon, maybe, by the end of the week, maybe early next week, something like that is what I am personally looking at. So those are the major things I'm looking at the very moment, guys. Again, if you're a bull and you want to see Tesla run up to, like, let's say 975, again, you really, really, really need to see this 940 level break and hold, especially. That's the most important part. Breaking it is step one, holding it is step two, and usually the harder step as well. So that's something to consider. But again, if you're a bull, you not only really want this 200 moving average to hold, but you ultimately want this kind of, red line-ish area to hold as well, which is the kind of, rough uptrend that we are in, which essentially for the remainder of this kind of week will pretty much put us just shy of $900. You don't want like 900 to break and like to go too much farther down, right? That's kind of what you're looking at the very moment, right? So easiest way to put it is like 880. If 880 breaks, we're looking kind of bearish. So that's something else to consider, guys. But ultimately, based on what Tesla's setting up at the moment, even though very, very short term, maybe this week, maybe even next week if we're lucky, there is still chances of a bullish movement. But with that being said, again, over the longer time frame, and especially pretty much as we enter September, I am starting to get more and more bearish. So that's just something to consider. Ladies and gentlemen, I did add to my SPY put today. So I added one more put to SPY. Again, this is on an October put, so I am getting it, fairly far out, not super far out, but not close either, about 65 days or so out from today essentially, which is it gives me enough time so that I don't need to be right this very instant. As long as I'm right within the next few weeks, I'm perfectly fine. So that's kind of what I'm playing at the moment, on top of also entering a small bullish position on Tesla. Pretty much just predicting the fact that, even though we might get some red, ultimately, I don't think it'll be that bad. And ultimately, I think, we might just get some kind of sideways consolidation for the remainder of the week, give or take. So that's kind of what I'm currently betting on. We'll see what happens, of course, but that's what I'm seeing. Let me know what you guys think down below. And of course, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.